All right, let's get the restream chat up and running. All right, let's get the restream chat up and running. Let's also share the stream to our YouTube, to our LinkedIn. Let's see if we are streaming to LinkedIn. Yeah. Well, our official start is at 11 a.m. Pacific, so just making sure that we are live on. We are live on YouTube, and I think we are live on YouTube. Also live on LinkedIn. Making sure that we are live on. We are live on YouTube, and I think. Oh no. Okay. Okay. All right, we got an early start today. I'm gonna say hi to everybody who's watching our stream, to the folks that are going to be watching today, to whoever's going to be watching maybe sometime later today, maybe in a couple days, in a couple weeks, maybe a year from now. Thank you for tuning in into the SOLIDWORKS VBA stream presented by Blue Byte Systems Inc. I gotta drink a sip of my coffee. And I want to introduce Mr. Little Duck here, my coding companion for today. He's going to be sitting on the microphone, and he's going to be helping me out write a SOLIDWORKS VBA macro in Excel. It's kind of a new one. Hey, Chris, how you doing, bud? All right. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, was very interesting. I went to the PDM user group meeting that was hosted in Boston at the SOLIDWORKS HQ. It was very awesome to see some of the PDM administrators, the power users, and also ask questions about SOLIDWORKS PDM as a product, and see the latest features and bug fixes for SOLIDWORKS PDM. That was pretty awesome. During that user group meeting, I actually had the idea to rewrite a macro that was already written, I think, and I need to give Tor from APS Support credit for this macro. This particular macro will be pointed to Orchit Patel. Hey, buddy. This particular macro works from SOLIDWORKS. You can point it to a directory in PDM. And what it does is it's going to scan all of the files in that directory and will, let's say, take the second column, call it file name. It will add file names here. The file, let's do this, file B. So it will list all of the files in that directory. It doesn't really know how to autocomplete smart. Maybe I'm not using this feature correctly, but so if you know how to kind of like put in a series of sequential elements and have them drag. Hey, Sagar, how you doing, bud? Anywho, you would point it to a directory in PDM, and then when you trigger it, it will put the file names in this column and then list the values of the data card variables in this area here. And then you have the ability, for example, to go in and make changes and fill the card values here. And then there's another button where when you click it, it's going to go back to that folder and then check out those files and then edit the or update the data card variables. So that's what we're going to do today. It's not going to be efficient. It's just going to do one file at a time. There's a SOLIDWORKS PDM interface, actually, that allows you to be able to edit multiple variables at the same time. If you have a large set of files, like maybe in the hundreds, even the thousands, then it's better to use that particular interface. I think it's called IEDM. Batch set variables. So let's see if we can get that help page. It's called IEDM batch update 2. Let me bring it here to my main screen. You guys can see it. So this particular interface called IEDM batch 2, that allows you to set the values of several files and folder cards variable all at once. And you should use this. It's a very efficient one. And you get the benefit of using this when you are mass updating the values of a large number of files. So in the thousands, you get the benefit of it versus having to do it one file at a time. We're going to do it one file at a time, but obviously you can just take this code and make changes to it so that instead of having to do one file at a time using the set var method, then you could use the IEDM batch 2. Maybe a topic for the next stream, kind of like a new version 2 where we use the IEDM batch update to instead of using said var. All right, I'm gonna minimize this. But to start, let me show you guys how to create a macro in Microsoft Excel, right? I think some of the folks here already know how to do that, but if you don't, then this is your time. So one thing to do is to get a file and then try to find options. When you go to options, you need to enable the developer tab. By default, this is not enabled for a lot of folks. Okay? You need to enable the developer tab. Go back here to make sure that I've got, keeping an eye here on the chat. Need to enable the developer tab. So by default, that's not enabled. You have to go to File, Options, and then I think we have to go to Advanced. Scroll down. I don't think it's in Advanced. Draw center. Customize ribbons. Yeah, there you go. And then you check this. Just make sure that this is checked. Click OK. Once you click OK, you'll have access to the VBA macro ribbon or the developer ribbon here. And you can just record a macro and say, we're going to call this edit folder files variables, PDM. Well, kind of self-explanatory. So let me click on OK there. I'm going to stop recording. And then we go to macros here. Double click on this file. Visual Basic Editor. Let me click on it again. I want to edit. There you go. So now perhaps if I do something like VB dot message box, right? And type in here that I want to say hello world. And click here. Okay. Right. Let me see if we can arrange this so that we have a better view. Okay. So this VBA macro is going to run from Microsoft Excel. That means that we need to add the SOLIDWORKS PDM references before we can make any calls to our vault. I'll go to Tools, References. I need to find Enterprise PDM. And I actually forgot what it's called. See, PDM Works Enterprise. If anybody remembers or knows what the reference is called for SOLIDWORKS PDM, then please feel free to drop that in the chat. PDM Works. Well, luckily this list is ordered or sorted alphabetically. We should be able to find it. D, where is P? DI, PDM, there it is. PDM Works Enterprise 2023. You might be running a different version or a different year, so the name will be the same. So I'll click OK, and that's how you add your PDM reference. Again, in order to add the PDM reference, go to Tools, References, and then look for PDM Enterprise type library. Check it, click OK, you're set. Now that we've got access to the PDM API interfaces and objects, we can actually start writing PDM code. well, first thing that we need to do is to create an instance of our vault, right? So I'm going to do that here. Dim vault as I or EDM vault 5. And I want to set that to a new instance. So new EDM vault 5 and then vault login auto. And I want to connect to my Blue Byte vault. And then this is the parent window handle. Dim handle as long. Is this defined as long or? Yeah, it's a long. You could put in here 0, and that's fine. But preferably, we want to be able to get the parent window handle of Microsoft Excel, which I genuinely do not know how to do, but we're going to Google it really quickly here. So get the window handle of Excel. Are there any existing VBA methods to do that? I know with SOLIDWORKS that we can do that through the frame interface. Oh, okay. So there is actually a class called application. So the class application does define, not sure if this is a property, but it looks like it's a read-only field that's exposed publicly that returns the top level window handle of Microsoft Excel window. So, let me bring this here. So this is going to returns a log indicating the top level window handle of Microsoft Excel window read only. I mean, read only, right? You don't want people changing that. So I would expect that if I do handle equal application. Oops. What am I doing? Application dot HW. There you go. That was easy. That was absolutely easy. If you compare this to SolidWorks, you have to use a method called some portions of your screen are not visible. Thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate that. So let's make sure that is visible. The screen is visible. Let's see. That is much better. Okay, so going back to this. So we initially defined our instance of an instance of the EDM vault, which is the top level object of the SolidWorks PDM API. This represents a vault, and then we just created a new instance of it in memory. So we declared a variable of type IDM vault 5, set vault equal new your EDM vault 5. And then we went in and tried to log in using piggyback of the existing connection to PDM. And this method, auto login, requires the name of the vault, obviously, but also a handle, which allows us to print the blue login dialog on top of the host application, which is Microsoft Excel. So we need to get this thing called the handle, which is kind of a unique identifier in File Explorer. That allows you to uniquely identify a window by a number, right? So now each application has a way of giving you the handle of the main window. What we were trying to say was that Excel does it through the application class. It has this field called HWND, and then it returns a long indicating the top level window handle. Top level window handle of Microsoft Excel window, and it's read only, right? Comparing this to SolidWorks, unfortunately, you have to use a method called getFrame that returns an object of type frame, and then for frame you can get the HWND using a method called getHWND. If you're using SolidWorks 23 bits, but everybody's using 64 bits right now, so they used to have another method called get HW64. Get HWND64. Yeah. SOLIDWORKS API. Yeah, get HWND64. From frame. There it is. Let me go back. If you guys are able to see my screen properly, please someone say something in the chat. So this is the method that is part of the iframe interface that we can get through SLDWorks, sorry. But this is, I don't know if this method is only available through early binding and with 64-bit versions of SolidWorks. But SolidWorks since 2014 has always has become 64. I'm not sure why are we still using, or why is this still available? I could be wrong. I don't know. Right. Anywho, pretty straightforward in Microsoft Excel to get the handle of the window. So now if I click on run, I mean, nothing really happens because I'm actually logged into PDM. Right. I'm logged into PDM. Well, I'm going to go back here. Okay, and I go back one more time to go. I was just checking the window. If I go to PDM, my blueberry icon here, if I can find it. I don't think I can find my PDM blueberry icon. I'm going to use a tool that we are going to release as to the community. It has a premium version, but also has a free version called PDM Shell, which is basically PowerShell for SolidWorks PDM, kind of like a command prompt interpreter for SolidWorks PDM. I'm logged in here through the shell. I'm just gonna kill my connection to the to PDM to kind of force my blueberry icon to show up if I try to log in again. So now, there will be some opportunities here in today's stream to kind of show you guys some of the awesome stuff that you could do with PDM Shell. But we're trying to push this through the Microsoft Store, so it's readily available for everybody that has Windows 10 and Windows 11. But going back to our code, if I click on run, ta-da, this is going to switch to Microsoft Excel, and it's going to print the blue login vault, login dialog. And then I can just put in my username and password and continue my login process. All right, I'm logged into PDM. That's awesome. Now, let's request the path. Where is it? Yeah. Let's request the path to the folder from the user. So again, what we're after is, let's say that we want to do description and part number. All right. These are the variables that we want to fill. Let's say that I'm going to remove this. What we want is to get all the files that are in the location that we're going to request from the user, right? And then we're going to fill everything starting from the second row downwards, with the first column here being the ID, the second column being the file name. And then we'll just do 2 columns because, you can edit it later. It should be pretty straightforward to edit. We'll just use description and part number. Let's go back here. one easy way to get input from the user is to use a class or class called input or either input box. Before we do that, we need to just define a variable that's going to be the folder path. So dim folder path is string, and then we can write folder path equal to, I think it's input box. Input box VBA. Input box. Yeah, that's exactly it. Input box. So input box is a function that you can specify input box will show a dialog that is going to request input from the user, right? And you can customize how that dialog will print on screen. So here for the prompt, you could say enter folder path, and then for the title, you can call this folder files variable updater, folder content variable updater. I don't think this is a great name, but you guys can suggest something different. And you've got a default parameter, which I don't really know what it does, but looking at MSDN, so this is an optional string expression displayed in the text box as the default response if no other input is provided. If you omit default, then the text box is displayed empty. I guess we could put path. We can change that to path, and then we can type in here must be a PDM folder, right? And then the third parameter is the X position, which is optional. This is a numerical expression that specifies in quits the horizontal distance of the left edge of the dialog box from the left edge of the screen. If X position is omitted, then the dialog box is horizontally centered. I mean, who cares about these? Well, we'll omit these. So we don't need the X and Y positions, the help file, and the context. We don't need any of that stuff, right? So let's see what this looks like. Nice. Oh, this is pretty cool. So folder content variable updater. Horrible name. Absolutely horrible name for what we're trying to do. But nevertheless, we have a default value here. I wonder if you should put the Volta root folder as the default path. Yeah, let's do that. Because that would make it looks better, right? So here, well, let's define another variable. We're gonna call this dim volt root folder path as string. We'll put that instead of must be PDM folder, right? And then we'll do volt root folder path equal to volt dot root folder path. If I do this, yeah, this is, then you can add another slash and whatnot. Obviously, there's always the more graphically intuitive approach of showing a browse to folder dialog. We're not going to go that fancy today, but you get the idea. Okay, so now that we have gotten the folder path from the user, we need to get the object from PDM that represents the folder, which is simply called IEDM folder 5. IEDM folder 5 we are going to set this object using the Vault object, and we're going to use a method called getFolderFromPath. GetFolderFromPath is going to take in the folder path, and then is going to return an IDM folder file. Obviously, if we give PDM a folder that does not exist or a folder that exists outside of PDM, then this is going to throw an error, but we don't care about that for now. Okay. Live? I think I am. All right. Live? I think I am. Sweet. Now, all right. Let's go back and get the content of the folder, right? We get the files that make the content of our folder. I think I am. Sweet. Now, all right. Let's go back and in order to get the files in our folder, PDM provides a couple of methods to do that. They all come together in this pattern called the iterator pattern. Oops. Now, the iterator pattern allows us to be able to access a list of objects from one object without having to expose the entire list in one go. So we're kind of like drip feeding each object or each files one at a time from the folder. Let me demonstrate that here real quickly. So the first thing you want to do is to define a variable called POS, let's call it position, right? As IEDM position. So IEDM position, right? And then you set this to equal to folder get first file position. Now you want to make sure that while the position is null equal false, oops, and you end the while loop, you can go and set, let's define an iterator, let's define a folder, a file. So dim file as IEDM file 5. You can set the file to be equal to folder get next file, and then you feed it in with the position. Now we're just going to debug print the file name. And if we run this code right now, it will print all of the files that are in the folder that we provide our code, our macro. So if I click OK here, there's nothing, obviously, right? I can always check the content of the folder in my PDM using a command called dir or directory. And I'm going to show you how to do that here with the PDM shell. I can to CLS to clear my current session that I have right now, and I can just type dir or dir and then press enter. And I think I might have pressed it twice, so I'll do that one more time. dir enter. Did I press enter? There you go. and it kind of printed all of the content of my folder, which is the root folder, because right now I'm logged in here at the root folder. This is what indicates that I am at the root folder of my vault, my Blue Byte vault. As you can see here, there's some content in this folder, but there are all subfolders. There are no files, right? So if you change this logic right here to traverse files, then we will be able to traverse folders. Then we'll be able to see some output here in the immediate window. Let me navigate here to another subfolder in my vault using the PDM shell. Let me show you how to do that. Use a method or a command called cd, which means change directory. In PDM shell, if you type in cd, you automatically get an autocomplete that suggests the folder that you are able to kind of change directory to or navigate to. Right here, for example, I'm going to go to my API folder. So I press enter. Right now, I'm under the API folder. If I go and type in dir, it is going to print the content of the API folder in my vault. And in this API folder, actually, there are no files, but there are folders. So we'll just navigate one level down. I'll go and go to my sandbox and then do dir just to display a list of files and subdirectories in my sandbox. If I do that, and then still there are no files in sandbox, so I'll have to go one level down. And let's go to, I guess let's do Grinder, I think. Grinder assembly might have some files. If I do type in here dir and press enter, hopefully we'll see some files come out here in a second in the output area here. If it's taken too long, it means that there are a lot of items to traverse. So there are actually 40 files in the Grinder directory. I'm going to copy this. And I hope this is copyable. Yeah, so these are the files. See how cool the PDM shell is, because it really gives you a nice representation of the content of your PDM folders. These things don't even have to be locally cached, right? You just need a vault view, that's it. Right, so I'm just going to copy this path. I know for a fact that there are about 40 files. And I'll press run macro, or I'll just put my cursor within my edit folder or edit folder files variable and click on run. And I'm going to add this to the path, right? And then click OK, and we should see some files being printed here in the immediate window. I think we are getting some sort of error. Object required, and that's because is folder null? Did I mistype the path? So let's check the watch window. Not the watch window, in the, go back to the view. The locals. Path. Folder path. Then folder. Well, we've got values in the folder. Position is empty. Let me go back to our code. Close this. So while position is null equal false. Oh yeah, my bad. Get next file position. That's what I was missing. It's just a little typo there. I apologize about that. So let's rerun it one more time. run. And now it's asking me for the path. I know that since I used PDM shell, which I'm trying to navigate to right now, I know that my API sandbox grinder folder does have about 40 files. I'm just going to copy the path from there and then go back to Excel and complete the path. I think it was a great idea for us to include the path of the root folder as a default value in the input box, and then click on OK. Ta-da! I think we've got all of our files listed. So that's the first win here. So we've got data, right? So we can start filling in the first two columns, right? So the ID and then the file name. So let's do that. So with every file that we debug print, we can actually add it to the first column. So let's say that I'm going to put a comment here and then add ID to the ID column in Excel. So let's use an iterator. Let's call this dim, call index as integer, and then the column index will start from 2, right? And then all we need to do is say something like range A and call index dot value equal to file dot ID. And then we're just gonna increase the column index +2, and then we'll do the same thing for the name, right? Let's say that we are going to fill the Excel range with file metadata. And then the second column, which is B, is going to have a file name. So B dot get just name, and then we might as well do the variables as well. We'll do C equal to file dot get variable from DB, which doesn't exist here. So in order to get the value of a PDM variable for a file from a data card, you need to get an interface called IEDM enumerator. IEDM enumerator variable. EDM enumerator variable. Let's define this. So dim variable enumerator as IEDM enumerator variable. IEDM enumerator variable. Let's do 5. So this is going to help us enumerate through the variables of our file. So set variable enumerator equal to file get enumerator variable. And now I can confidently say get enumerator variable, get variable get variable. I wonder where get variable from DB is. So the method that I'm trying to use is called getVar from DB. It does exist in the IEDM enumerator version, but not 5.6. I have to use now get enumerator get variable, or we get var dot var from db. So IADM variable enumerator. I think I used version here. That's a problem. So there it is, get var from db. You have to specify the variable name, so we'll do description. And then the configuration we'll just use the add tab. And then this is going to be our value. I will take the value, call this dim description as object or as string. And I'll put that here, and then I'll just take this, cut that. I remove these parentheses here, and then I'm gonna set range at the column index to description. I'm gonna do the same thing for part number. I'm gonna copy paste this, and this is gonna be column D, part number. Copy that, and then change this to this to this, and then part number. That's how I have the variable called on my system. Sweet. Now, I will, let me just take a sip of coffee. Now what I'll do is, I'll actually run our code. Yep, go back to my shell, cut, and then paste this. Might as well cut this and have it ready in my clipboard. And if I go back to Excel, if Excel lets me, when it finishes executing. Did you look at that? It did fill everything as it's supposed to, but it was kind of jumping columns. It was interesting. This is interesting. If I go back here, +1, that's why it was. If I run this one more time, and I paste the path, nice. This looks awesome. Right. The only thing that's missing is the actual description. So let's go back and fix the issue that we are seeing with our descriptions as well as our part number. There's nothing in here, right? I want to make sure that I've got actual descriptions and part numbers. I'm gonna print the descriptions and the part numbers of all of my files in the grinder folder using PDM shell. So let me show you how to do that. Right? Let me just increase the font size here a little bit. So the dir command can be useful for this. So I'll type in dir dash, and then I'll specify the columns. So I want description, comma, and I want part number. Press enter. And this is going to list all of the files that are in the grinder directory and add 2 columns here to the output One is description, the other one is part number, just to show me if my files have descriptions and part numbers. I mean, imagine having to do this in File Explorer. You'll probably have to go and edit the default columns in PDM to get you those. This is so much quicker. And it's better done through PDM shell. We do have some values here. So we do have descriptions, but we don't have any part numbers. I'm going to show you how to actually set the batch update the part number here through PDM shell. We're already trying to do that here with our VBA macro in Excel. But this could be useful to have a larger data set. Okay, so we have an issue in our code. It's not grabbing the file descriptions. All right, is it because this is a string? Let's just define this as an object. I want to make sure that I'm actually writing the name of the variable correctly. Description. Also got description, which is correct. So I'll put a breakpoint at this level right here. What's with Excel? Oh, I need to exit the cell editing. We'll go back to my VBA code. I'll put a breakpoint at this level right here, and then run my code. Do I still have the path on my clipboard? Yes, I do. If I hover over description, I get nothing. Why is that? I get nothing. And if I go back to PDM shell, I know for a fact that I actually have descriptions in the description column for every single file. So if I remove the definition of the type, rather, I'm just going to click OK, and then run this one more time. And hover over description. We needed to remove the specific type that we are defining the description variable with. So that is the reason why we don't have any values in description. So if I remove this and I go back to my part number, I'm just going to drop this as well. And then just click on continue. It's going to ask me to reset here. So I'll do that. And then I'll paste the path to my input box. And you know what? Yeah, that works. I'm going to click OK. And now if I can switch to Excel, but it's not letting me do that, it's just filling in the data. You just have to trust me. All right. We have gotten all the descriptions. Only thing we need to do is to get the part numbers. There are no part numbers in the part number variable for all of these files. So what we'll do is that we'll go back to PDM shell. Imagine having to do this manually. It's absolutely horrible. But I'm going to show you how to quickly update a data card variable for a bunch of files in a folder using PDM shell here. This is going to be an awesome tool, and it will be available through the Windows Microsoft Store for free. So I know that I've navigated into the grinder folder here. All I need to do right now is to start by checking out all of my files. Now, there's a specific command that allows you to check all of the files that are in the current folder. And that command is called checkout. So if I type in checkout, and then I do search, and then I use the %, which is a search wildcard in PDM, which means any character, and press enter, it is going to go and check out every single file in this folder. It's going to check out every single file in this folder. So I'll wait for it to do that. file in this folder. It's going to check out every single file in this folder. So we'll wait for it to do that. It's doing its thing. It's getting there. It is slow. Well, partly because my PDM is slow, but also the checkout command in PowerShell can definitely use some refactoring. But still, it is faster than the manual approach. I think we have finished. I should probably add some sort of indicator here to the search when it's completed the command. If a command is being used with the search parameter, should have some sort of indicator here that says, hey, the command has finished executing. Anywho, everything's checked out right now, right? Which is awesome. Now, I can go and use another command called setVar, which allows me to set the value of a data card variable. I'm going to use the search parameter so that it is going to search for every single file in my folder, which is already checked out. And then I am going to specify that I want to update the part number variable. And then for the value, I'm going to use some special keywords. I'm going to use the keyword $ID, which is going to use the database ID for the file as the value for our part number. So I'm going to press enter and let it do its thing. Part number is not found. This is part number without the space. Yeah, okay, it's part number without the space. We'll look at it right now. It is actually taken every single file and setting the part number variable to the ID of the file, which is awesome. This would take you ages to do manually. And all we need to do after this is to check our files back into the vault, and then we would have populated our part numbers. There's so many other ways you could use the setVar command to include the values of other variables, to include the values of the data card of the folder. So it's an awesome tool to quickly add data in mass to your vault. Okay, so now that I've actually set the part number of my of my files to their IDs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to check my files back into the vault. So there's a specific command for that with pdm shell, check in, search, and then percentage sign, and then enter. So this is going to check my files back into the vault. All right, it's doing its thing. Still checking, trying to check all of the files back into the vault. And I think it's done, right? So I can just, I'll just clear my CLI here. And if I go back here and I change this to just part number with no space in between part and numbers, and I go back to my code, which I can locate here, and then run, paste, okay. It's not actually getting the part number because I didn't update the get far from DB. So now if I scroll down, this should work now. We run it. Paste, okay. There you go. And it's putting in the part numbers. So that's half of the battle right there. We've been able to list all of our PDM variables, right? And their files. And then we can go back and let's call this read. And we can just copy paste this and create another method that says go up, update, right? And the only changes we need to make for this method is to check the files out and check them back in and use the setVar method in our code to update the description, the part number, instead of the get var from DB, which just lists that. Awesome. So we're actually gonna leave that for our stream next Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm gonna put this code out in our SolidWorks VBA macro. And let me just show you guys where that is so that you have access to it. So you can find a bunch of free macros that we put together on our website. So go to solidworksvbamacros.bluebyte.biz, and then at the top here, go click on SolidWorks VBA macros. I'll take you through this to this page where you've got a list of all the macros where they're codes. So you can just go in, find the code, just copy paste that into the VBA editor. So you'll find the macro that we wrote today sometime by Monday on the PDM section here, on the SolidWorks PDM section. All right, thank you all for watching. I will see you next week, and until then, enjoy programming. Thank you.